Trump, Putin, and the Republican Party plan to rig the 2024 election. You know, one of the big stories yesterday in a lot of the news is, by the way, I opened the article today. I'll get to where I was going in just a second, but I opened today's article, yes, with a reference to El Dorado. Yesterday, Nicholas down in Mexico, who's also one of the moderators in our chat room on YouTube, called in to talk to Congressman Mark Pocan and said, you got to watch this new movie on this new documentary. It's not even a documentary. Well, it is a documentary, but it's like it's got people acting the roles of the real people from the 1920s and 1930s in Germany. It's called El Dorado. And so, you know, I made a note, and last night Louise and I watched it before we went to bed. And holy cow, you've got to see this movie, El Dorado, over on Netflix. I mean, you've just got to see it. And when you see it, the rant that I'm about to share with you will take on a whole new meaning. So, back to my rant, which is, you know, today's piece. It's titled, How Trump, Putin, and the GOP Plan to Rig the 2024 Election, ? And one of the big stories yesterday was that this judge, a Trump-appointed judge down in Louisiana, kind of a crackpot QAnon guy. I mean, back in 2021, he was the guy who put a federal hold on health facilities requiring their employees to be vaccinated against COVID during a pandemic. This is a vaccine denier. This is a mask denier. This is this is one of the COVID. This guy's a crackpot. This judge. I mean, he appears to be otherwise a reasonably well qualified judge, but somehow that brainworm got inside his head and ate up his frontal lobes or something. He's Louisiana District Judge Terry Doughty, D-O-U-G-H-T-Y. In fact, in 3 cases in 2021, he went so far as to falsely claim that, quote, vaccines do not prevent transmission of the disease, and, quote, the virus has achieved an immune escape from COVID-19 vaccines, right? Neither of which are true. He also, in one of his decisions, cited an attack on Dr. Fauci, the attack being that Fauci had said hydroxychloroquine doesn't cure COVID, which is true, and the judge cited that attack on Fauci for saying that, basically agreeing with the premise that hydroxychloroquine does cure COVID. So we got this crackpot judge. And the judge ruled, and he issued this ruling Tuesday on the 4th of July, because he's such a patriot, right? He issued this ruling saying that the administration, the Biden administration, our government, from literally they named Joe Biden, but they also named people all the way down the chain. The FBI, CDC, just a handful of agencies and individuals, and dozens of actual individuals are enjoined from talking to social media organizations. Now, why? Well, in his ruling, he says that the administration has been engaging in widespread censorship, and that this censorship included, and I'm quoting from his ruling here, these were things that he says were censored by the Biden administration. Quote, opposition to the validity of the 2020 election, opposition to President Biden's policies, statements that the Hunter Biden laptop story was true, and opposition to policies of the government officials in power. So, in other words, he's coming out and saying that the Biden administration is doing political censorship. He goes on to say, all these stories were suppressed. It is quite telling that each example or category of suppressed speech was conservative in nature. This targeted suppression of conservative ideas is a perfect example of viewpoint discrimination of political speech. And it's not like, he's just being careful with his words. I mean, he goes on to say, the evidence produced thus far depicts an almost dystopian scenario. The United States government seems to have assumed a role similar to an Orwellian ministry of truth. Right, here we are living in 1984, right? Or at least living in the novel. So this 155-page ruling All these people and all these agencies, quote, are hereby enjoined and restrained from taking the following actions as to social media companies. 1, meeting with social media companies for the purpose of urging, encouraging, pressuring, or inducing in any way the removal, deletion, suppression, or reduction of content. Quack, quack, quack. And it goes through 9 different things. You can't meet with them. You can't flag content. You can't urge the content be removed. You may not email, call, send letters, or engage in any communication of any kind with social media companies. You may not collaborate, coordinate, partner, switchboard, or jointly work with the Election Integrity Partnership, the Virality Project, or the Stanford Internet Observatory. These are, debunked lies organizations. You may not take any action such as urging, encouraging, pressuring, or inducing in any manner social media companies. It goes on and on like this, right? And the threat is federal prison. Now, these are agencies that, were warned, that did tell social media companies, Twitter, Facebook, et cetera, that lies about COVID were killing people. And in fact, we now know that the lies about COVID that were promulgated mostly by Russia here in the United States, but also by Republicans. But the big push appears to have come from Russia through the Internet Research Agency. That these lies caused at least an additional 500,000 unnecessary American deaths. On top of that, there were lies about the 2020 election being stolen and all that, which was also being promoted by Russia. And and I mentioned yesterday one of the major Russian effort in 2016, micro-targeting black people on Facebook, in particular, although across social media, with information that Paul Manafort was funneling directly to Vladimir Putin's intelligence services to say both parties are the same, don't bother to vote, which appears to have effectively suppressed the vote in some of these states and may have been responsible for handing the election off to Donald Trump. There's a debate about that, and I'm not going to get in the middle of that debate, but there is no doubt that this was what Russia was doing, and this was their main message. And, it's repeated over and over again. So here now comes this judge saying, if there is some kind of a campaign targeting a group of Americans. Now, my guess is this time around in 2024, they're not going to be targeting black people saying, both parties are the same. I think that's kind of old news. I think this time what they're going to be doing is identifying people who are most likely homophobes, and they're going to be slandering the queer community. They're going to be going after, particularly trans people, but also gays and lesbians. And this is where I opened today's article with a paragraph saying you need to watch this documentary on Netflix, El Dorado, because it's about how the Nazis, first they came for the gays, and in a big way. And now, I've written about this before. I wrote an op-ed about this maybe 5-6 months ago. I had not seen the documentary. The documentary backs up everything I wrote and more. And I think probably I should take that documentary and reprise it. But serious stuff. So what's going on here? Well, it looks to me like what's going on here is this judge is paving the way for the Republican Party and Putin to come up with a new big lie, promote it like crazy via social media using the algorithms to amplify it, and forbidding our government from notifying anybody, essentially, that these are lies. What do you think? In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann Program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free, and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the hartmannreport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com.
Fight back!
We're rolling right along in the Free Speech TV Fall Fund Drive. Things are pretty slow on Monday. It picked up a little bit yesterday, but we are frankly behind. And so we need your help. There's also a special donor challenge. The Monday and Tuesday match where your donation got doubled is done. That ended yesterday. Today, Thursday, and Friday, it's going to be, if we can get 500 new donors, 500 people who have not donated before, to sign up for any amount. You know, $5 a month as a sustaining member, $5 as a single donation, or 15 or 20 or 30 or 1,000, I mean, whatever. If we can get 500 donors, this group of frontline funders that put up the match have also put up a $10,000 one-time gift, essentially, to Free Speech TV that will only be unlocked if we can hit that 500 number of new people. So if you've never contributed to Free Speech TV before, now would be a really great time, today, Thursday, and Friday. Also, you know, we only do these fund drives for 2 weeks now, and so we need to pick up the pace. The frontline funders who are helping out with this are Vivian and Bobby in La Puente, California, Tracy in Jacksonville, Oregon, Suzanne in Caslett, Virginia, Steve in McLean, Virginia, Sam in Desert Hot Spring, California, Reggie in Raleigh, North Carolina, Mike in Tippecanoe County, Indiana, Mark and Tiana in Cowdrey, Colorado, Joe in Washington, D.C., Diane in Santa Rosa, California, Diane in Avalon, California, Charlene in Houston, Texas, Carol in Bandon, Oregon, Brenda in Copperas Cove, Texas, Bill in Boise, Idaho, and Andrew in San Diego, California. There's also, you know, of course, the gifts that go along with one-time gifts. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker. It says, proud student of Thom Hartmann University. The Free Speech TV window cling, or the I'm Voting Are You car magnet. All very cool things. With a $50 gift, there is the Free Speech TV keychain and the window cling. This is the keychain. It's very cool. It's you know, it's solid metal with a little, it looks like porcelain. It's probably plastic, but it's kind of cool. It's very cool. Free Speech TV keychain, or the fall canvas tote bag. And this is the canvas tote bag. Just got these in the mail yesterday. And isn't that nice? Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? With fall colors and everything. And it's a really nice, well-made, you know, take it to the store or whatever, you know, haul stuff around, whatever you'd like. And in fact, it even has a little hook here that where you can, you know, hang it up and where it's convenient for you. So those are with the $50 gift. With a $75 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV baseball cap. I had one around here someplace. I don't know what happened to it. Or the Free Speech TV official program, Thom Hartmann Program mug. With a $120 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV t-shirt or my new book, The Hidden History of American Democracy, Rediscovering Humanity's Ancient Way of Living, autographed by the author, which makes it worth $5 more on eBay. Or Sonali's new book, Rising Up, The Power of Narrative and Pursuing Racial Justice. She was on our program talking about this just a little while ago. Or Think Like a Detective, A Kid's Guide to Critical Thinking. This is David Pakman's new book, and very cool, a children's book. With a $200 gift, there's the Free Speech TV hoodie. This is really nice. This is the hoodie, and on the front, it has the freespeech.org, and on the back, it says, the future, I'll get it right here, the future is inclusive. Isn't that great? And it's you know, this is a heavy-duty hoodie, by the way. This is you know, winter's coming, and this is nice and warm, and it's got the fleece on the inside. And it's a great gift. That's with a $200 gift. With a $240 gift, you can join us for a Zoom call for we call it the virtual meet and greet, where we all hang out and talk to each other for a little while about what's going on. And with a $1,000 gift, there's the in-person meet and greet. Come here to Portland. We have not yet started those, but we're, you know, we keep waiting for COVID to go away. Or the complete set of all 9 of my hidden history books, autographed by me. So that's with a $1,000 gift, and that's quite something. All 9 of those books. So those are the premiums, and I will remind you again, if we can add 500 new donors this week between now and Friday, you know, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, if we can add 500 new donors, then we get, Free Speech TV gets an additional $10,000 from that list of great frontline funders that I just shared with you a moment ago. That's a big deal. $10,000 goes a long way for Free Speech TV. This is a network that is supported by your donations, and you know, this is why we come to you 4 times a year and ask for your help. And it's so important to have a good, solid, progressive television network out there. Nobody else is doing the kind of work we're doing, to the best of my knowledge. And we've got catching a pretty good audience. We need to grow it, we need to expand it, and we need your help to do that. So please.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Hey, happy midweek. Mittwoche. It is Wednesday. The Swiftboaters are back with the Biden impeachment. I'll tell you about that in just a moment. By the way, did you know that one of the first times Harlan Crow threw money into a political campaign, it was to support the Swiftboaters back in 2004? Remember that? I was on the air back then. We had Jerome Corsi on the show a few times. Anyhow, we'll get to that, as I said, in a minute. Also, Ron DeSantis wants to execute border crossers a few times as a deterrent. Just kill them dead. I didn't think we could go any lower than separating moms from their children and then losing about 1,000 of them to a phony Christian child trafficking system. But, you know, then I didn't think it was possible, but then they go ahead and do it. Also, Elizabeth Warren is calling for an investigation into Elon Musk and Starlink, as Putin's plan to win the war in Ukraine includes electing Trump. We'll get into all those things in the first hour of our program. In the second hour of our program, how the red states are stripping power from urban voters. Also, whoa, wait a minute, Oregon sues Fox Corporation over 2020 election lies? Yeah! Also, New York City. And 8 catastrophic floods in 11 days. What's behind the intense rainfall all around the world? And in our third hour, Joan Walsh and Nick Hanauer have a new book out, Corporate BS, Exposing the Lies and Half-Truths That Protect Profit, Power, and Wealth in America. And we will have them on the program. So, you know, a lot going on. My op-ed today is about yesterday's impeachment. I sort of mentioned this briefly when we were when I was on the air yesterday, saying that it seemed to me that the whole the whole Biden impeachment thing, you know, which is being driven by Donald Trump. Donald Trump on Sunday night had dinner, a private dinner. Well, maybe it wasn't private, actually. There were several people there who told us this story. Had a dinner with Marjorie Taylor Greene. And at that dinner, he suggested to her that she really needed to lean on Kevin McCarthy, at least according to the people who were there, to impeach Joe Biden so that, you know, when the election came around, it would be, you know, Joe Biden wouldn't be able to say, I'm running against the only guy who's ever been impeached, or, you know, my opponent has been impeached, you know, blah-de-blah, that Trump could say, well, you've been impeached too. I mean, let's just be clear about this. It's not going to happen. Kevin McCarthy didn't even have enough votes to create a committee. He has not created an impeachment committee like Nancy Pelosi did. Instead, he's just slapping the word impeachment on the House Oversight Committee, the House Judiciary Committee, and the House Weaponization of Government Committee. It's really a marketing scam. But it reminds me so much of what happened in 2004. Our program had been on the air for about a year then. We've been on the air 20 years. We started in March of 2003. And back in 2004, Jerome Corsi was coming on our program. He's also the guy who wrote the book about Obama's lack of a birth certificate. And I mean, you know, he's a Republican operative who specializes in smearing Democratic candidates. It's really that simple. And you know, they found a bunch of guys who had been on Swiftboats, which is what John Kerry had been. You know, it's a type of riverboat that they were using in Vietnam. And none of them had served with John Kerry, the ones who were attacking him. In fact, the guys who did serve with John Kerry got together and created an organization to defend John Kerry. But, you know, like Mark Twain is said to have said, a lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is still putting on its shoes. And it turns out that, as I mentioned, Harlan Crow actually helped fund the Swiftboats, the Swiftboat guys. Now, Democrats would prefer to win elections based on what they have done. You know, hey, we passed the Inflation Reduction Act. We passed the American Recovery Act. Joe Biden has created more jobs, or more jobs have been created during his presidency in the first 2 years of his presidency than any president in American history. Inflation has fallen more rapidly than any other time in American history. Unemployment is at 1960s level. Black unemployment is better than it's ever been in the history of the United States, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, lots of accomplishments there that the Democrats intend to run on. Republicans really do not want to run on their accomplishments. I mean, you know, can you imagine a Republican candidate running an ad on TV that says, you know, vote for me. We force 10-year-olds to carry their rapists' babies to term. We want more guns to slaughter more of America's children. We want tax cuts for billionaires, more tax cuts for more billionaires. We want more fossil fuels to create more out-of-control weather. We want a government shutdown to cause a recession. And we would like a Russian victory in Ukraine. Do you really think anybody would vote for them if they said this is their platform? I mean, you and I both know the answer to that is no, and they know it too. And so in 2004, what they did is they went after John Kerry's credibility, his honesty, his character. This was a pure character assassination effort funded by Harlan Crow, in part. Then in 2016, they did the same thing to Hillary Clinton. I mean, well, actually, they tried to do this to Barack Obama in 2012, saying that he wasn't a natural-born citizen. He wasn't born in the United States. He was born in Kenya. Can't you tell? He's got black skin. Oh, my God. It didn't work, and Obama was successful in ridiculing it. But they tried. And now they're trying it with Hunter Biden. Oh, and then in 2016, they did it with Hillary Clinton, with both her emails, you know, with a little help from the Russians and Julian Assange, and the whole thing about Benghazi. The Republicans, you know, the CIA had asked Congress for an appropriation to harden the CIA station. It was a CIA outpost. It wasn't a diplomatic station, even though a diplomat was killed there. To harden that CIA station in Benghazi, Libya. And the Republicans turned them down. Got hit. 4 Americans got killed, which, by the way, had happened on multiple occasions. More Americans, CIA officers, diplomats were killed during the Bush administration than during the Obama administration. But that didn't matter. Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, so they tried to pin it on her, and they did 2 years of hearings. Remember, she testified for 11 hours or something like 10 hours? And they were unable to pin anything on her. Emails, Benghazi, none of it. There was no there to any of it. But they didn't care about that. What they knew is that presidential elections are typically won by less than two percentage points. If you can shave off 1.5 points from the base by just demoralizing them, convincing them that you've got a really crappy candidate, and you can shave off another 1.5 points from independents by convincing them that, you know, this is not an honorable person, you should vote for the other guy, vote for the Republican, then you can win elections. And that's exactly what George W. Bush did in 2004, and this is exactly what Donald Trump did in 2016. But you know, they think that they can go after Joe and Hunter Biden. This is all about Hunter Biden. And, you know, maybe they've got a case. I mean, after all, Hunter Biden got $2 billion in that sweetheart deal from the Saudis. Remember that? He got a $25 million a year just fee for managing it on top of the $2 billion. He also got $1 billion from Qatar, from his buddies in, you know, after his buddies in Saudi Arabia cut off their food supply until they coughed up the money to bail out his building in New York. Hunter Biden got more than $600 million while working in his dad's White House. Don't forget the millions in trademarks that Hunter Biden's wife got when Daddy took them to China. Don't forget the multiple meetings with Russians working for Vladimir Putin, who was working then to get his dad elected president. Or the $30 million given to one of Israel's largest insurance companies to invest. Or that top secret information that Hunter gave the Saudi prince that helped him overthrow his own government. Oh, wait. That was Jared and Ivanka Kushner, not Hunter Biden. I'm sorry. Hunter actually appears to have committed 3 crimes. Number 1, he didn't pay his taxes for 2 years. He has since paid them in full and paid the fines. This is something that over 1 million Americans do every year. And nobody goes to jail for it. But the Republicans want to send Hunter Biden to prison for that. And number 2, he got a gun permit, and on that gun permit, and he bought a gun, which he had for 11 days. He had it for less than 2 weeks. And when he filled out the gun permit, he checked the box that said, I am not a drug addict. Now, as far as I can tell, I did a web search yesterday. I can't find a single person in the history of the United States who's ever been sent to prison for checking that box when they were actually a drug addict. But it's technically illegal, and the Republicans want him to go to prison for that. And then the third thing that Hunter Biden did, which is, you know, the subject of all the Sturm and Drang right now, those two things I just mentioned. He's being prosecuted by a Trump-appointed special prosecutor, being supervised by a Trump-appointed right-wing Federalist Society judge. But with the impeachment thing, they want to look into his position on the Burisma board, a fossil fuel giant in Ukraine. And for that, he was paid $1 million a year. And it was bad look. It was, you know, and Hunter Biden has admitted this. It was poor judgment was the phrase he used. And, you know, apparently, well, not apparently, I mean, it's been well established that while he was working at Burisma, he would call up his dad, the vice president, get him on the phone, put him on the speakerphone, and they would have conversations. Now, that's the bad news, is that his partner, the guy who testified before the Oversight Committee under oath, said that Joe Biden used those conversations to talk about the weather, to talk about family matters, and to try and talk Hunter into going into rehab, which he eventually did. But the Republicans are saying, oh, no, there was more to that, and, you know, Hunter was getting money and giving it to Joe and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Well, no, Jared was doing that with Donald, but, you know, like I said, Marjorie Taylor Greene had dinner with Donald Trump, and he gave her marching orders. This, you know, the headline over on Drudge, Donald Trump behind the Biden impeachment. Absolutely. This is just pathetic. And frankly, the Democrats, you know, they tried to ignore the Swift boating. You don't ignore this kind of stuff. They tried to ignore Benghazi and the emails. You've got to hit back with ferocity, with intensity. You've got to fight back. So we'll see how this plays out. We'll be right back. Ron DeSantis wants to execute people at the border. Really?
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And Elizabeth Warren wants to investigate Elon Musk. It'll be interesting to see what Chuck Schumer has to say about that. Stay tuned. And welcome back. Derek in Seattle. Hey, Derek, thanks for listening to KBCS. What's on your mind today?
Hi there, Tom. Thank you for taking my call 3 weeks ago. And more importantly, thank you for having Dr. Eric Feigelding on the show 4 weeks ago, talking about the rise in COVID and the need for caution.
Oh, it's, you know, our new phone screener, Mark, his wife has COVID. Nate, our video guy, his roommate has COVID. It's like when everybody around you starts having COVID, you know that it's back.
Yeah, it never went away, especially for those of us at risk, who I'm calling on behalf of today especially. But everybody is at risk for long COVID. Since we talked, I learned Dr. Feigelding has a whole series of videos, along with many other experts. Have you heard of the World Health?
I believe so. Is that, well, tell me.
Go to WHN.global or just Google World Health Network, not WHO, not World Health Organization, but World Health Network, again, WHN.global. This is where the minds are meeting. A worldwide discussion among scientists working together to educate people and take responsibility where governments worldwide are failing us. Again, WHN.global. Lots of great info and videos to check out, a very underutilized resource.
So any data points that you want to share with us?
Well, a bunch of stuff. Are you familiar with HICPAC?
No.
The Healthcare Infection Control Practices Advisory Committee.
I am not.
It's a federal advisory committee to CDC. They're working to update CDC's guidance around infection control practices. There was a hearing about 3 weeks ago. It was quite taking public comments. There was an uproar about this in our community, and this was on Tuesday the 22nd. There's video out there, and this has to be heard to be believed. Go to YouTube and search for CDC public comment August 22nd. There are several posts. There's one